Wait,
was the
did I miss something? What happened?
She was really
so
upset
in
about
2020
Coachella being
they
cancelled.
canceled Coachella because of, you know, and
Yeah,
she
of
went. Was
course.
she on live? Like, what was she
Yeah.
on? I think she was
I
like
think she was
live
on
on
Instagram
Instagram.
Live. Yeah.
And she was so upset because she was the queen of Coachella, really, at that time. And the viral part that she said was like, yeah, like people are gonna die, which is terrible, but you know, like inevitable. And I'm not defending that at all. However, what I will say is like basically 2 years later, every politician had taken up that exact same stance.
Hi, and welcome back to the Bias Cut. Today, we're going to be talking about festival wear in honor of Coachella 2026. We decided to get into the history of festival fashion and investigate how we got to the very specific aesthetic we see today. And Sana is going to be explaining all of this to us, so I'll give it to you.
So we're going to get into the history of festival fashion. I'm going to be coming at it in 3 parts. So we're going to do a general kind of history of the modern music festival in the US and the UK. Then I'm going to get into the relationship between festivals and clothing, and kind of get into how it got so commercialized. And then we're going to end it off with the modern festival fashionscape, and also we're going to talk about cultural appropriation. We're going to do it. We're going to give it a go. Obviously, it's a loaded conversation, but someone's got to say it.
Exactly.
Starting off with history, just to establish scope, because there are music festivals all over the world. They've been happening for centuries. You know, let's set some boundaries, some expectations. So I'm going to be talking about the music festivals from the 60s onwards, primarily in the US and the UK. Music festivals, as I said, have been a tradition across the globe. There's even evidence of them existing in ancient Greece, which was a surprise to me. I was like, oh, that's crazy. And
How do we get to attend ancient Greek festivals? Can we go back in time?
Women probably weren't allowed.
100%.
I don't know. I just said that. I don't know.
We're joking.
Also, there were like classical musical festivals in the 17th, 18th century. People have been doing them.
So me. I need to get myself to a classical music festival.
They do still do those today as well. Yeah.
I've never heard of them. There's like an outdoor music venue here that like does classical music concerts like outside. Ooh. But it's just like one ensemble, and I love going to those. So I'm gonna have to look into it.
Have a little googly. But I'm going to start off, like I said, 1960s, which is the time that most people consider kind of the birth of the modern music festival in the West. So the first festival we're going to start off with is Woodstock in 1969. So this was originally called the Woodstock Music and Art Festival and was held in some guy's farm, a guy called Max Yaska. Yaska's farm. The producers, Michael Lang, Artie Kornfeld, Joel Rosenman, and John P. Roberts. Those are the most like man names ever.
Truly. Basic Man 1, Basic Man 2, Basic Man 3.
They were really struggling to find a venue for this place. It was getting like really intense. They were having arguments with, local landowners and townspeople, and there was I think some like, intimidation and violence involved. It seemed scary. And then this guy Max Yaska offered up his farm in White Lake, Bethel, New York.
Oh, okay. Upstate New York. That makes sense.
Upstate New York. And yeah, it was a 3-day festival in August of 1969. And it said that around 500,000 people turned up, which is just...
You can see the like sea of people in that picture. Like that stresses me out. The people in the far, far back, I'm like, girl, you can't hear anything, can you? You're just there for the vibes.
I do think there were multiple stages, but it was a lot of just vibing, I believe. 3 days of peace and music. Wow.
That's a cute poster.
It is. And you can see people just chilling in the car park because, again, 500,000 people meant a lot of cars that they did not have space for. So you ended up with like 20-mile traffic jams and just so much mud. So much mud.
A lot of cars are probably breaking down because it's the 60s.
But everyone was just there for vibes, you know. They didn't really... It was actually 3 days of peace and music. It didn't get violent. It didn't get super rowdy. People were just there for a good time, which is like, that's nice, you know? It's nice to hear.
Yeah. Honestly, that picture, it just looks like a bunch of people who are like road tripping together, hanging out. Like, this is what festivals used to be.
God, this whole thing has just me being like, damn it, we missed it.
We missed it.
Yeah, I mean, I would.
You're telling me
have
the
hated
boomers
this.
got this?
I know.
And they turned into that.
I know. But
You had everything.
They really did. They kind of did. Well, if you were white
they
and well
did.
off, you did.
Yeah, exactly.
There was no real organisation for this music festival. So on the first day, music acts were kind of just dragged on stage when they were spotted nearby.
Oof.
So they dragged Richie Haven, who's like a songwriter, guitarist, up on stage, and he's like, I'm not meant to be performing right now. And they were just like, go. And he was like, okay. And then he would come off stage and they couldn't find anyone else, so they make him go back on stage. And that happened like 5 or 6 times. And this guy ran out of things to play. Like making up songs on the stage.
Oh my
gosh. It's pretty cool. I mean, what a flex. It was so many people that Rockefeller like threatened to send in the National Guard to break up the crowds. And it was, people were afraid of large groups of young people gathering, which I understand. But also, like, nothing happened. Like, it was a largely peaceful event. It was a success, despite everything. So then the next most notable one, again, I'm really just cherry picking here. There were so many festivals.
Yeah.
So many. Everywhere.
You can't cover them all.
I can't cover them all.
Yeah.
But in terms of style, I'm focusing on these particular ones because they developed kind of their own specific aesthetic.
Okay.
So next up, we have Glastonbury, which was originally Glastonbury Festival of Contemporary Performing Arts, but first it was Pop, Blues and Folk Festival. It had a lot of names.
Oh, whoa, okay.
But this was hosted, again, just a guy with a farm. His name is Michael Eavis, and he hosted it in Somerset, England. And the first one he held was in September of 1970, like the year after Woodstock. And this one was attended by 1,500 people, which is like pretty decent for like
group.
A small local festival. This was started in response to the Free Festival movement, which was gaining popularity in the 60s and 70s. And it was just basically about offering an event, ideally free of charge, that is just about community and music and art. And so that was kind of the spirit in which Glastonbury was also founded. It became an annual event in the 80s. And what I like specifically about Glastonbury is that from the very beginning, they've been donating profits to different like charitable enterprises.
Oh, cool.
So in the 80s, a lot of it was donated to the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament. And even still to this day, a big part of Glastonbury is charitable work and philanthropy. And the guy is the same guy. He's turning 90, but it's still
Local
his company
legend.
that runs it. Yeah. I think it's impressive that it's like massive now and is quite commercialized, but I do think he's kept a lot of the original ethos behind it.
So my question is, for these like early festivals, you've been mentioning like contemporary performing arts, and were there other forms of art that were on display, or?
Yes. So for this kind of era, so particularly the 80s and 90s, the reason I've picked out Glastonbury and Coachella is because they began introducing multiple genres in one festival. So most other festivals were very genre specific. So you had like rock festivals, you had metal, you had raves, like there were lots of different subcultures popping up, and they were quite like insular. But with Glastonbury, you get into the 90s, Channel 4 began broadcasting the festival. So that's just a popular, it's like the BBC, and they started broadcasting the festival in 94. So that's bringing huge mainstream attention to the event, and also it's kind of like cementing the fact that dance music is now popular music. So dance music was kind of considered more just like in the clubbing scene, and for raves and stuff. It's that kind of precipice of we were exiting out of rock and going into dance.
Okay.
Obviously, we had disco as well in the middle. We're entering like a new popular music that was also represented in these festivals. The BBC then did take over for Channel 4, and the 2000s began with Bowie headlining. So that was a huge moment. And 250,000 attendees.
So the numbers are skyrocketing.
Yeah. So Coachella started a lot later than I thought it did. The first one was in 99, and that is also officially called Coachella Valley Music and Arts Festival.
So I'm older than Coachella.
Wow. Crazy. How does it feel?
I just feel like I understand more of the world than Coachella does.
And hey, that's a valid stance. So this is annually held at the Empire Polo Club in Indio, California, at the Coachella Valley in the Colorado Desert. Those are a lot of words, and I don't know if that's correct. It's what Wikipedia told me. Baggy,
That sounds right.
fact check?
Yeah, that sounds right to me, but I don't know.
Yeah, it is in the Colorado Desert region. I don't know. I never go over there.
And that
Fair
would
enough.
make sense just because of the sheer heat of the desert. Like,
Wow.
yeah, I'm going to stay on the coast.
Yeah.
A good segue.
Ooh.
Because Coachella provided such a contrast to Glastonbury, because Glastonbury is known for the rain, which also really impacts style, whereas Coachella is the complete opposite. You're dry and you're hot as hell. So it's
all
I think,
influencing,
both of those things have really influenced the like kind of diversion of these two different aesthetics. And then quick Lilith Fair mention, just to pop it in here, because it is around the same time. The Lilith Fair is a touring festival founded by Sarah McLachlan. It started in 1997, and I think they toured each summer for 2 years.
Yeah.
I think what was key about this is that it's an all-female lineup. They did a 35-city tour featuring more than 60 artists, so it was a pretty like. You said you watched the documentary. Do you recommend the documentary?
I would recommend the documentary. I think it's I haven't finished it yet. I have like a little bit more time left, but I think it really goes into the nitty-gritty of like planning and the fact that they actually also just employed a lot of women. So like techs, people who were just like doing the technical side of the fair and like planning. It was mainly women as well, which is super cool.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting. It's a interesting bit of history, and Olivia Rodrigo is in the documentary.
Wow. It was produced by Dan Levy. Levy?
Yeah. Because he like had kind of a gay awakening at Lilith Fair, which is so funny.
I love him. So now I'm going to get a little bit into the fashion side of it. So we've got like a basic, this is the foundation, this is the landscape that we're working with. We have these various kind of festivals going, different climates, different kind of audiences as well. And key is a very much diverse in terms of music genre. Obviously, Woodstock was in the context of the 60s, which is known as hippie time. No one calls it that.
It's hippie time.
It's hammer time, but it's hippie. No one calls it hippie time. And also, actually, the youth movement did not refer to themselves as hippies. That was something that was applied onto them. So the context of the 60s in America is obviously, well, and the UK, but the Cold War is looming large. You know, we haven't quite gotten out with that. We still have threat of nuclear annihilation. Fun. Obviously, the civil rights movement, and most influentially, I would say maybe, is the Vietnam War. I don't know if I could say most, but a very key part of it is the Vietnam War, because that is the age range. The people that are being conscripted is the kind of age range of this youth movement that began to develop. That was very much in contrast to the very conservative ideals of the 40s and 50s, which is, of course, like the age range of the parents of this generation. The term was first put in print, like hippie as a term was first put in print in 1965, and this was specifically in reference to the youth in San Francisco. So it was primarily used for American youth at first. And then you also have the role of LSD and weed. Drugs was a big part of it. Recreational drug use was a big part of this whole youth movement because it was all about like pleasure first, and anything that could enhance your experience and make you happy was seen as like acceptable and fine. So do you guys know what head shops are? I didn't know what head shops were. I assumed that you both would.
I don't
know. Oh, okay. So head shops are just shops that would sell the like paraphernalia for recreational drug use. So it's where you go to buy bongs. And
I've never heard that name for it, but yeah.
Yeah, I had never heard it either. And I think it is kind of an outdated term now. But the first head shop,
people refer to them, at least like out here I still hear people referring to them as head shops, although I think some of that has changed just with like Ohio legalizing weed.
Right.
But head shops are also places where you get like some of this kind of festival type wear as well.
So the first head shop was opened in 1966, so we're right in it. You know, it's not legalized in any shape or form, but people were still, like, the demand was still very much there. So you have these head shops popping out. And then you had the Summer of Love. It was an event that happened in 1967, in the summer, obviously. And it was just 100,000 people, just 100,000. It was 100,000 people, mostly young people, gathering in San Francisco. They just love to gather.
I love that. Can we gather again, guys?
Can we gather
It's been
again?
so long
Gather
since
again.
we've gathered.
Us specifically.
I know.
But also in general, can we just gather again?
Y'all, next year will be our Summer of Love.
But yeah, as far as I could tell, it's not considered a festival because I don't think it was that organized. But there does seem to be performances, and I do think there was a stage. In 1968, that's when the Beatles went to India. I put that in because Hinduism and Buddhism were massively popular amongst this subculture. I don't even know if they really were genuinely like into the scripture and things. I think it was more, honestly, the aesthetic of it. And they would go on their little hippie trips, hippie trail. The hippie trail is a thing. That's not just me saying things. So the hippie trail would tend to start off in a city in Europe, kind of go through Istanbul in Turkey, and then go through like Iran, Pakistan, Nepal, and into India. And that was kind of a common route in the 70s. And it would be like coach tours. It became quite a big alternate tourist kind of thing. The goal was also to do it as cheaply as possible. So it is very much the beginning of the gap year. I'm going on my gap year.
My gap year. Oh, mom and dad. I gotta go on my hippie tour.
I'm going on my gap year. But that's where you see a lot of those kind of aesthetics coming into play. So obviously they would like buy stuff when they were on these trips, and they would come back with jewelry and various kind of, you know, garments, and just in general inspired by the colors and patterns, etc. There was also just a general rejection of consumerism, and like I should say mainstream consumerism. So they were looking at vintage and secondhand shops and charity shops here in the UK, and that would be kind of Art Nouveau-esque, like 20s, 30s, 40s. That's the stuff that you'd be finding in there. So you have a resurgence of kind of like the William Morris prints and these like big floral motifs and the like flowier fabrics. Because if you think about the mainstream fashion of the 60s and like mod style, it was very structured, quite pretty simple, honestly. It was quite a pulled back aesthetic, especially in comparison to like the volume of the 50s and stuff. So it was in contrast to that. You have bold patterns, you have softer fabrics, you got long hair, maximalist jewelry. Tie-dye was something that came over from Asia as well. Those were like traditional dye techniques in India and other South Asian countries, all brought over, intermingling, and you have the hippie is born. There's so much about menswear in this time, which I find interesting.
And this is menswear in relation to hippie clothing, the hippie aesthetic. Okay.
Because if you think of like the Beatles during that time, like late 60s, they were going full hippie look.
Yeah.
You know? And so it was becoming, like, it was a popular aesthetic. It's a subculture, but it's still a popular subculture, if that
Yes.
makes sense.
Were women also just inspired by that menswear, or was there kind of like a separate thing going on for women's wear?
You do have, I included what I could find. Those were from Woodstock. You can see the kind of peasant blouse, you see fur and leather, which is the Native American influence, which I will get into as well. Because there was a strong like Western clothing, as in like American Western cowboy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I don't know what that was.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, American Western.
Yeah, so a lot of leather, suede, bolo ties, fringe, which you were talking about before. So all of this, everything that we see today was also seen in the 60s, just in an entirely different context, really.
Yeah.
Also like moccasins and stuff were all very much, you also, there's a guy, the like curly hair, red bandana, the beads.
Oh,
so
yes,
those are like,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure those are Rudraksha beads, which are like a sacred thing in India. Like my
wow.
mum got me one. It's a seed of a plant, of a tree. I don't know like the specific meaning, but it's like in Sanskrit scripture, it's like said to be quite a sacred thing. She like got it made into a necklace for me, and if you wear it, it's supposed to be good for you, you know. So I assume he probably picked that up in India somewhere. And then the next slide, you have these women. I'm pretty sure the woman on the right, the top that she's wearing, I'm pretty sure is like a traditional Indian blouse. Just from the cut of it, is very specific. So I think that she probably, picked that up from India or a charity shop or something. And then the woman on the left, I feel like the skirt is also maybe pulling from something. Either it either looks like Austrian or like South Asian. I can't quite tell in the photo, but you can just tell there's like a big mismatch of cultures, of influences. People are just kind of wearing what they find. And then you have the other side of that, which is like the leather, which apparently hippies and the Hells Angels, like the biker club
Yeah.
in the 60s, were like friends for a sec.
A shared love for leather, maybe.
But yeah, like they had shared ethos in that they were very like, they were just oppositional to mainstream ideology.
Anti-establishment.
Yeah, so like initially they were like, we're friends. That lasted like a second, and and then
And they were like,
the bikers
"Ooh,
said,
maybe not."
we hate you guys. So the Rolling Stones hired Hells Angels as security for their concert.
That's actually kind of
that's,
awesome.
yeah, a photo from that. But then I'm pretty sure something happened at that concert, and that's why everything kind of fell apart. Also, you have veterans returning from the Vietnam War, which is why you get a lot of military influence that you see sometimes, because they're wearing a lot of like surplus military wear. So a lot of army jackets, a lot of boots, because boots are a big part. That's one thing that I was like most intrigued about when I was going into this. I was like, where do the like combat boots and leather come from?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It feels kind of out of place, but it seems to come from, well, one, obviously Native American influence, indigenous communities. Then you also have returning war veterans from like the Vietnam War, and you have like army surplus shops and stuff being quite popular. Then you also have biker influence, which I don't think was a huge influence, but I don't think it did nothing, you know. I think it probably did still introduce a new aesthetic language that kind of merged together. And also, did you know that hippie, like bell bottoms were military wear? Everything is military.
You're kidding me.
So like
I'm
Navy...
very curious about this, just because the ethos that you've kind of been talking about with hippies is that they're kind of like
almost pacifist,
war. Pacifist. So like wearing military wear seems like this very like a big step almost.
Well,
and I think it's just probably what just they had. Like if they're coming back from
access
what,
to-
that's just like
a good amount of the people who came back from the war were not in the war in the first place on their own terms. Yeah,
100%.
and they're not well off,
Yeah.
and like that's just like what they have.
But I guess I'm curious by people who potentially purchased military wear, but we're not in the military. Like,
Yeah.
that's what I'm curious
Yes.
about.
No, that's a good point.
It's-
I almost think that it's more evident in the later decades of
Okay.
this kind of
As it
influence.
develops,
I think, so I think in the
loses
60s,
kind of its attachment to that original meaning,
Yeah.
you know?
The 60s kind of just like people were wearing what they had that was practical and comfortable. Like most of the photos from Woodstock, people aren't wearing that many clothes.
Well, because there's 500,000 people there.
Yeah.
It's a lot of naked
hot.
people. It's a lot of butts and boobs.
Yeah.
And it's like people wearing boots because you're in the mud, and it's people
Yeah,
wearing
it's
like these
practical.
jackets and yes, there were style elements, but also it's just kind of people were going as they were. People weren't necessarily dressing up for a festival yet,
Right,
Which I think
exactly.
is like a key point. It's the idea of festival fashion didn't really exist at
They're
this time.
essentially just wearing like what they would wear for the summertime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, bell bottoms were naval uniform. No one really knows.
That does make
like,
sense.
Yeah, there are lots
Yeah.
of different theories as to why. Some people was like it's easier to roll up so they don't get wet, or they were also. This is
Interesting.
like in an instruction manual from the time, from like I think 1870s sometime. For a safety manual, they say if you are overboard, if you're like, drowning. Sorry, I couldn't think of the word.
Overboard.
Drowning,
Save
apparently. You're supposed to take off your trousers and use them as a flotation device. Like that, I sat there for a long time trying to figure out how that actually practically worked.
Yeah.
I couldn't, but that is
Some pretty
part
sturdy
of it.
wool.
So
They would
I don't
knot the
know.
pant legs, is what this
Yeah.
website is saying.
Wow.
So we're gonna we're gonna kind of skip the 70s a little bit, just because honestly I didn't find a ton for the 70s, and I think that's because it was very genre specific. So it's very subculture specific. So I think to find stuff I would have had to like look into rock festivals. I had to look into metal festivals, and I just didn't do that.
Yeah.
So,
That makes sense.
we're kind of skipping to the 80s, which is where you see late 70s into the 80s you get indie music in its very like literal form, independent record labels producing music. And then with that you have the development of an aesthetic that comes alongside that. You would think that these are all from the 2000s. Like looking at these photos, to me, when I was looking at this particular style at the time, I was like, this reads so modern to me. These are all from the 80s. These are all 80s bands photographed in the 80s. And you can just tell how big of an influence this had on how we dress today.
Truly.
Like, I don't know if it's just me, but I was really shocked by this. I was like,
It's interesting. Some of them are reading very like 60s and 70s to me.
yes.
Yeah.
So, funny you say that, Maggie.
Oh.
Because the 80s followed on from the tradition of the 60s. Secondhand clothing and DIY was really the building blocks of 80s fashion. And obviously, what they're going to be finding in there is 60s. The group on the right-hand side with the girl and the woman with the striped shirt. There's a quote from one of the band members saying, so it's this Pete Momchiloff.
Right.
I'm sorry, Pete, I'm not laughing at your name. It is kind of funny though. Pete Momchiloff from the group Heavenly remembered that his look was sort of a beat-up 60s look. He went on to say, you couldn't really buy these clothes in the high street, so charity shops were a godsend.
The intentional look was to have a
Yes.
second-hand look. Oh, you could really get into that.
There's so much here, like you could do every decade, honestly.
Truly.
And I might.
I'm just curious about that like parallel to today where people want that like distressed
Yeah.
look.
But they
You
want to buy it straight away.
Yeah, literally.
On the
Yeah,
rack.
exactly. Yeah.
So in the 80s, you have new ideas of masculinity floating around. So the top right-hand corner is a band called Pulp. And the leading guy of that, who is in the middle, I believe, was kind of flamboyant. He was kind of Bowie-esque. He would have a very like strong persona on stage, and he would wear very tailored suits, kind of Somber-esque. I don't know if you know Somber
Oh,
now.
yeah. Yeah.
Now that I'm thinking
Yeah.
about it, I'm like, yeah. Anyway, it all leads back. But it is just like, this is the emergence of the skinny indie man, you know? Like, this is
The malnourished.
Yes. But in contrast to that, so you have it was dubbed the new man, this kind of archetype of a modern metropolitan guy. It's the same. Like, we see this every decade. But what's interesting about this is that it had a counterpart called the New Lads. This is more like Oasis and Blur. But they rejected this idea of the new man, and they were like, we're blokes, you know? Like,
yes. I'm just a bloke.
Well, Em was saying before about it looks like they're just kind of wearing clothes that they usually wear, like it's not very styled. That was very purposeful. This idea of like this laid back look, they would wear like athletic wear, actually. They'd wear like sportswear, so trackies. This idea of being purposefully kind of messy, kind of... We've not yet got into grunge, but it is kind of... We're on the...
The forming of it all.
I got distracted by my hands. They look really wickedly.
I'm curious if this like style, this kind of like purposefully relaxed style went along with kind of the idea of like the lifestyle of the musician, like less polished pop musician and more so like
you're
grungy musician.
You're getting into that. You're getting into the idea of indie sleaze. I don't think they called it indie sleaze at the time because that feels like more of a 2000s idea, but
I think so.
Those kind of adjectives, you know, the word in my head, I'm just like drugs.
They were doing drugs, guys, so they couldn't put themselves together.
They were quite openly engaging in recreational drug use. That has definitely still carried on from the 60s. And also, it's getting a bit more, like, violent and a bit more, like, macho kind of ideas are coming through, which are contrasting the new man aesthetic of... you know, the Bowie of it all and the Queen, and you're having these two separate ideas of masculinity, definitely. So we get into the 90s, and that's when the grunge really is in full swing. You have Nirvana, you have Kurt Cobain. I think Courtney Love deserves just as much attention as Kurt Cobain. She does get a lot of attention, but I like to mention them both in tandem, you know. I think Kurt Cobain's mostly known for wearing skirts at this point, I think, probably. But he kind of rarely wore skirts. I think he wore... I don't think he wore them that often. But here you get the skinnier jeans are coming through, the sunglasses, the just like lankier, everything is kind of falling off your body type of aesthetic is in full swing. Even with women's wear, like the images of I feel like that's one of her most famous images is her in that leopard print with the black lace. Like messy hair, strong makeup. I don't want to say cosplaying poverty, but I'd say that like probably plays into it a little bit, you know?
I definitely think so. I think with that like kind of rocker or like indie lifestyle, there is a certain level of like like you said, cosplaying poverty to a certain extent.
I was nervous to say cosplaying because I don't know their backgrounds, but at some point they were earning a fair amount of money, right? Like
yes.
I think also the like, because obviously this has a trickle down effect of like the fans want to dress in a similar way, and so I think that
so it's
potentially
more
be
as
the
a
moment.
style.
Yes.
So not these. I'm not referring to these two people specifically, and also like. I will say I've kind of joked about the whole drug aspect of it all, but it's actually quite a tragic aspect. I mean, we lost so many musicians due to substance abuse and overdoses. Obviously, Kurt Cobain being quite a famous example of that. But even in the 60s, like the 60s ended with, I think, Mick Jagger, Jimi Hendrix, and I always forget her name. That's so bad. She's a female singer. The Summer of... her name begins with a J.
Janis Joplin?
Janis Joplin, that's it. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
I was halfway there. Anyway, she also passed away at the end of the 60s due to a drug overdose. So like,
Elvis Presley did, I believe, as well in the 60s. Yeah.
So like it's a deeply tragic tradition, you know, because it was an incredibly toxic environment, and it wasn't like people were telling them not to take drugs. Like,
and in the 60s, it was seen as like
ways,
doctors would prescribe you with these things in the 1960s. Like,
like even when it did get criminalized and all of this, it's still it's so part of the culture. It has been from the start, and I do think it feeds into the fashion of it all, because I do think there is a messiness that was kind of glamorized and idolized that
Absolutely.
is a part of their style.
I mean, there's a reason why, like, the aesthetic of the 90s is heroin chic.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, as much as it's, like, something that refers to, like, body stereotypes, I think it also refers to just what was happening culturally. It was, like, it was glamorized in a lot of ways.
So we're going into the 2000s. So we just left grunge. We have these indie kind of signifiers that are carrying on, which is like the skinny jean and the blazer jacket. I think the jean with the blazer jacket, that's to me is like peak indie hipster boy.
100%.
Skinny scarf. Yeah.
100 little hat.
Yeah. And I do have a photo of the Strokes, bunch of guys in their skinny jeans and blazers. And I think that is kind of like the epitome of the like hipster boy, hipster man. And
this is this. I love that shirt. This is this.
This is this. This is this. Thanks, side fringe guy of the Strokes. One of the most iconic images, festival images ever, probably, is Kate Moss. And we were talking about heroin chic. I mean, she is Miss Heroin Chic.
Yeah.
Is that bad to say? I don't. The press made her into Miss Heroin Chic. This was very much a image that was curated and put on her. We've always got to acknowledge the patriarchal media here.
Yes.
But she is said to have single-handedly invented festival fashion. So these looks here, this gold look with the belt and the waistcoat and the mini shorts, these were 2005, I believe. And this was at Glastonbury, as you can tell by the mud. So I touched upon this before, but Glastonbury has like come to be known for its routinely bad weather. Like people expect the rain, and I think they'd be kind of disappointed at this point if they didn't get some mud. They want to wear their wellies.
Yeah, you got to get your wellies.
The Wellington boot became a style staple of Glastonbury, and I think can be seen most stylishly on Miss Moss with her little dresses, her little shorts, and her wellies. This photo was everywhere. So the press disseminated this photo across so many different publications. It became the festival look. And high street retailers jumped on that and went, hey, we can sell clothes based off of this. Like, based off of these images, we can take this and run.
So is this kind of the first time that we're seeing, like, retail companies taking festival wear? And okay.
So this is where we get into it. So this is like mid-2000s into the 2010s. We're reaching new levels of commerciality. Like, the high street brands are recognizing the scope of people that they can access. Like, these were very popular festivals. It's 100,000 people plus going to them. That's a huge market for them to access. And also, it's the idea of, even if you're not going to the festival, you can dress like you are. So young girls you can wear your Kate Moss festival look and you're just going to the park, you know? So we have brands like, this is in the UK. I'm not entirely sure of the brands in the US, but for us, it would be like Topshop, New Look, Primark. I'm not sure when Primark came about, but these kind of H&M, they would all start selling. They would release festival collections. They would release festival fashion guides, style guides. You also have blogs around this time. We have the internet coming into play a little bit. You just really get this standardized look now that can be sold and bought. So you have these little shorts, you have these little dresses, you have waistcoats, you have wellies, you have skinny jeans.
Alexa Chung.
There's our girl.
There she is. So she's selling a slightly different look, but this is also Glastonbury.
Very
She's now
posh.
So now we get class coming into it. I, again, don't really know the dynamics in the US, so I can't really speak to that. But Glastonbury very gradually became, for a specific tax bracket, like, it's not entirely inaccessible, but the look of it is very posh, I would say.
Yeah, I could
Like,
say that,
because-
we have the same thing happening in Coachella. And it's funny because Coachella was initially started to protest high ticket prices and these, like, the commercialization of all of this.
Ticketmaster,
Yeah, and, it's not posh. We have a different type of whole rich people thing happening there.
Yeah.
But yes.
And again, this is not to say that only posh people go to Glastonbury, because that's not true. But the overall aesthetic is leaning towards a more conservative,
Yes.
aristocratic kind of vibe. And Alexa Chung is definitely part of that. Her and her Barber jacket against the world.
I love it.
So Barber is a like quintessentially English brand. For anyone who doesn't know, they invented the trench coat, and you would probably
Icon.
know them from their you probably know them from the tartan lining.
Did they make the like military trench coats back in the day where they were like the Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, that's how Barber started.
It is very much like, for context, if you're not familiar with the brand, like the British Ralph Lauren, like this quintessential, right? Would you say that's a fair comparison?
Yeah, just I would like older.
Yes. Well, of course.
Just because Ralph
yes.
Lauren is quite a
No.
new brand.
No. Yeah,
Barber is like a no. Sorry, I don't. I'm speaking to the people.
Yeah. Just in the way of like, I don't know, like Ralph Lauren like
for
makes
sure.
all the
Aesthetic-wise,
Olympics.
yeah.
Like
100%.
Yeah, like I don't know. I
yeah.
would assume Barber does.
I think that's a very fair comparison.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is interesting. So, Glastonbury, at the time, were the tickets all that expensive, or were they still kind of like what was the vibe?
If you remember at the beginning, I said that Glastonbury was actually set up in the kind of tradition of this free festival movement. That was very much about encouraging free admission and also like getting the community to volunteer to help out. So it was all like a community-led experience. That is the tradition that Glastonbury started in. They still do like release a lot of tickets for volunteers that are free.
Okay.
So like they are still kind of engaging in that. I don't think it's the most expensive concert festival in the world, but it is definitely up there. Alexa Chung.
What was she doing, girl?
So she was doing her little knee-high socks with her boots, and she was doing the skinny jeans. And she was just going for quite a minimal look, like very black and white. She's got the indie stripes. I always think of like hipster and indie as those black and white stripes, the horizontal
I
stripes.
know.
Yeah.
Truly. Yeah.
She's got her like biker jacket and her little fedora hat.
Yes.
Love it.
She was just like quintessential twee. And then it's
We're
like
getting into
twee.
the Tumblr eras of it all.
This is after the Kate Moss ones. So this was very much like 2010s.
So I'm seeing even like behind Alexa Chung, maybe some like floral little dresses and wellies happening. Yeah. So
we
kind of
can
like
skip-
casual.
Very casual. I would say much more casual than Coachella.
Coachella is its whole other
Is a whole
kind of,
other thing
it's a
which we will
beast.
get into.
Yeah.
But next, I did also include Sienna Miller, just as a little contrast. She's also there at the same time. She is similar to Alexa Chung in that I think she just kind of became famous from like her style and
they share a hat, so
and
that's cool.
she had a hat. But you can see her going a little more boho with her look. She's a little looser. You're seeing some pattern fabrics and all of that. So that was still around for Glastonbury too. And I will get into the boho of it all when we go to Coachella. Coachella. Obviously, the location-wise, you are close to the epicenter of celebrity and influencer and all of that.
You know, if you
the
ever,
backyard.
you know what they say though, if you ever want to go to LA and have a good time and explore, go during Coachella.
Because everyone's
Honestly.
there.
Yeah.
Oh my god, genius.
I think people have seemed to have forgotten Vanessa Hudgens was the Coachella mascot.
Yes.
She really was.
Yes,
She was
she
Miss
was.
Coachella.
She
Up
got
until
taken down by
2020.
COVID.
People are gonna
taken down
die.
by
Can I
COVID.
say something on that? That
Wait,
was the
did I
that,
miss something? What happened?
She was really
so
upset
in
about
2020
Coachella being
they canceled Coachella because of, you know, and
Yeah, of
she went,
course.
was she on live? Like what was she on? I think she was
I
like
think she was
live
on
on
Instagram Live. Yeah.
And she was so upset because she was the queen of Coachella, really, at that time. And the viral part that she said was like, yeah, like people are gonna die, which is terrible, but like inevitable. And
Yeah, till July sounds like a bunch of bullshit. I'm sorry. But, like, it's a virus. I get it. Like, I respect it. But at the same time, like, even if everybody gets it, like, yeah, people are gonna die. It's just terrible. But, like, inevitable? I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't be doing this right now.
and I'm not defending that at all. However, what I will say is, like, basically 2 years later, every politician had taken up that exact same stance ahead of her time. I don't know.
she's who influenced the politicians.
She just
Anyway.
kind of became the epitome of the out of touch Coachella attendee. But she definitely set up the Coachella look. I don't think it was really a thing before her and like Kendall Jenner and that kind of era. It was definitely in the kind of mid 2000s that the Coachella aesthetic really kind of blew up.
Yeah. I have a hard time like understanding like how exactly it came to be, because when all of this, like the Vanessa Hudgens and the Kylie Jenner, like 2014 or so, that like I was 13, 14 years old. And so I was like, is this new, or am I just like as this like new teenager just for the first time becoming aware of it, you know? But this was huge. This was everything when I was that age.
So. And you can kind of see where they're coming from in terms of looking back at 60s fashion. You can tell that the roots are in the hippie look and the boho chic. The hippie look, and then it becomes boho chic. So now you finally put a label to it. You've got this label of boho chic. So I decided to do some research into boho and bohemians. They didn't exist.
Yeah.
So bohemians are a myth. They weren't a specific group of people. It wasn't like a, ethnic minority or something, which is sometimes is sold as. There was no place called Bohemia. Well, I think there might be a place called Bohemia, but as in like, there was no like kingdom of Bohemia.
You want to see what's going on?
Wait.
I have something to say about this.
But yeah, it was all just about artists placing themselves in, this is going to sound familiar, artists placing themselves in opposition to the popular ideology of the time. They want to be subversive, they want to reject ideas of consumerism and capitalism and industrialization. And so it's born out of this kind of 18th century idea of we want to make art and we want to celebrate human nature and, all of that. All that fun
Stick
stuff.
it to the man.
Stick it to the man. Also the idea of like the artist as genius, which is an idea that very much came from the Romantics.
Being countercultural.
Yes. They want to be countercultural. It is kind of the birth of a kind of subculture, and just in general this very common ideology that you see across subcultures. When you get into the post-war period, so into the 60s, and you get these competing youth cultures popping up, it's now no longer being associated with art, and it's more related to popular music, and you get music kind of becoming the glue of these groups, I guess. And this label of boho is kind of just placed as an umbrella term. Bohemian tradition of the use of dress is a signifier of dissidence. So anything that can signify them as counterculture, as a rebellion, as against popular mainstream ideas, is going to be kind of under this boho aesthetic. A lot of the times the way they did that was looking outwards to other cultures. It does seem like a kind of a logical thing. You're looking outside of your own country and you want other influences. And so they're drawing on these different aesthetics from so many different places, so many indigenous groups, from like Romani people, Asian countries, like it's really from everywhere. And you have this mismatch. You haven't quite got to the point where they're realizing that this could be a potentially exploitative tradition and activity. It's all under this like, we want to be free.
I think it's how they're choosing to look at these countries.
Absolutely. There's another good quote by Elizabeth Wilson. They turned a romantic eye on distant cultures and searched for spontaneity and authenticity in simpler societies which they felt no longer existed in their own. And I think that kind of sums it up. Obviously, this all comes down to like a fundamental like dehumanization of
Exactly.
other cultures. But if we're just trying to understand how this aesthetic came to be, so you have all of that as like the foundation of boho. Then you add this 21st century commerciality and capitalism and high street fashion, and you get this like bastardization that ends up being boho chic as we see it today, which I personally think is ugly.
I would have to agree.
I love the big conclusion of that is it's ugly.
As I've said before, this was very like a coming of age time for me,
Of
like when
course,
you're
yeah.
a tween.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I look back on it still fondly, but
Of
like,
course.
yeah, I would never wear a hat like that again. Well, actually, I'll never wear anything again because who knows what'll happen.
Who knows?
But
Will
yeah.
you be wearing a crochet crop top, a weird little waistcoat, and a fedora?
Never say never, but
Never say never.
But here's what
Oh,
I'll
I
say.
should say,
I'll
it'll
make
all
the
in
crop top
synthetics.
myself. Yeah, I would make
Well,
the crop top myself, or pay an actual
Well, this
artist
is
to
what
do
I was
it.
going to
Yeah.
then go into now, is that this look in the 60s was so based in secondhand, in vintage, in DIY, in championing natural
Because it was all
fibers.
about individuality. It was all
Ooh,
about
interesting
yeah.
you say that. I'm
curating it
You're-
yourself. Yeah.
You're getting into some good segues for me personally. So we have all of that, and it's all just been standardized. It's being pushed out in synthetic materials. It's fast fashion. The epitome of fast fashion is festival clothing in high street shops. Like these specific, like event specific clothing that's not going to be worn ever again. And you see this individuality, as Maggie was saying, becoming a commodity. And the idea of festival style is in and of itself kind of a contradiction. It's eating its own tail, if you will. What happens when individual expression becomes the trend? Individual style is a normative ideal that is inscribed on the body, simultaneously foregrounding the idea of something interior to its subject. Hiding from the view, the fashion and beauty system is in fact the originating source. So it's essentially saying it's this myth of this like expression of an interior identity, when in reality all you're pulling from has been curated specifically for you. The idea of building an individual look for Coachella, but everyone is pulling from the same shops, is going to the same places. You are feeding off of this same commercial source, but it's being repackaged as individual style. And that, I think, is the crux of modern day fashion in terms of trends, and in this particular case, like festival wear. Looking at the recent Coachella, I have been noticing that post-pandemic, and I do think this is a post-pandemic thing, DIY has become a massive part of Coachella looks now. And a big part of it, I think, is we saw a big rise in popularity of crafting during the pandemic anyway. So you have people acquiring these new skills. And then you also have, everyone needs content, because Coachella is now a place to be seen, to be photographed. Like, it is essentially a huge influencer event. And what is a perfect way to make content for Coachella? Making your Coachella outfit, making multiple Coachella outfits. So I've seen so many influencers all hand making their looks. So in a weird way, we've kind of circled back.
Yeah.
It's like in this weird, strange, like mutation of it,
Well,
you know?
I think with the nature of social media, there are trends in what people are making too. Like
100%.
even that isn't fully individualistic, because there are patterns that you can purchase. There are, like, I don't know, I'm making this up, but like everyone's like customizing their bloomers, and like that becomes like a trend for Coachella. Like
There's one look of two girls with their like safety pin, like distressed. And that I have seen so much. Like,
Oh yeah.
right. So there
I'm
are
not sure
trends
if they
within
made that or if they bought that. It could be either. But the point is that like, is exactly what you're saying, in that
Yeah.
you can't even tell when someone's DIY'd it, because the DIY
Exactly.
is the trend. So I'm now going to not so elegantly segue into different cultures in terms of festival wear. So I do want to just mention AfroPunk Fest, because I think it's pretty obvious. Most of festival fashion history is told from a pretty white perspective. You obviously have people of different backgrounds attending these festivals, of course. But if you look at style guides, if you look at, you know, in general, just how people report on it and how like people recall the history, it is a very like whitewashed version. So I did just want to point out AfroPunk Fest, which is an American festival that kind of blew up in the mid 2010s. So started gaining some traction in, I'd say, around 2015 as well. So around a similar time to Coachella. And what's really interesting about this one is that obviously it's a celebration of Black identity and African American culture. And you have people very actively, so I was reading quite a few interviews from people, so they were like people doing like street style articles on the festival, and it seems like people very actively brought in different parts of their like ethnic culture. So you have, I don't even know where to begin because it's just like so much, but just anything from people coming in traditional clothing from their culture to just like experimenting with hairstyles. With the one I picked, I really liked the black outfit with the roses.
Yes.
It's supposed to be like a nod to like church fashion and like aunties going to church, which I just think is so sweet. And I thought that's such a really sweet representation of it as well. And a lot of people making their clothing. You have a lot of artists there, I think, as well, just attending. So people would design their own looks, and everything just seemed to have a much more obviously political aspect to it, which I do think is part of what's missing in the more mainstream festivals that we see now. Like in the 60s and in general, like subculture of those decades, politics was a big part of subculture. It was often like one of the, I don't want to say defining aspects, but it was a huge part of what brought people together and of what solidified community. And I think that has changed a lot in terms of, in the attempt to make things mainstream, in the attempt to appeal to as big an audience as possible, you obviously have to shy away from any kind of language that is going to divide and any kind of language that is going to set a certain stance on anything. So I do think that Glastonbury still, like, it makes it clear that it's like a queer friendly space, and it's championing environmental causes. Like they have a fallow year every 5 years so that the land can like regenerate. So there's no Glastonbury this year because it's a fallow year, so they don't, they just give nature some time to breathe and regenerate. So it is still like a core part of their ethos. But in general, like Coachella, I don't think it really does much in terms of like...
I don't know. I do know that like there is like... There's a whole thing where there's like beef between week 1 and week 2, and week 1 is like, we're gonna destroy the grass before week 2 can get here. Like that's like, it's like a bit, but people were talking about like at the end of week 1, the grass is already like, the people are showing before and after, and it's like green in the before and gray in the after. But that's not, well, probably not, because it's destroyed. It's more likely that it was spray painted green in the first place and it was never green, and the paint has washed off.
That's crazy.
Yeah, they do that, but I'm not sure about any environmental concerns with that.
Well, I don't know if like, even if artists like making statements on stage, I don't think that's really a thing in Coachella, is it?
I don't think so, but I also wonder what other, like, because we have tons of other music festivals, like massive music festivals. And so I'm curious what other large music festivals are doing in the US, because Coachella feels like this kind of
almost an odd one out.
An odd one out where it's like, I don't think it fully represents like American music festivals.
100%. Well, I think that that's why I wanted to mention AfroPunk Fest, just to be like, this isn't...
Yeah.
Like, we're talking about Coachella because it has such a specific style, but there are so many other, like, oftentimes like grassroots kind of organized, community-led, like that all still exists.
Yeah.
It's not that
Yeah.
that doesn't exist anymore, because I don't want to make
Coachella,
people think that.
yeah. Coachella does make it clear it is also a queer-friendly space. That is just what I found with a quick Google
Oh,
search.
James Charles was
Great.
there.
No, I didn't want to mention him. I didn't want to summon the devil.
Carol
He's
G,
not the
first
devil.
Latina to headline Coachella, urged
I will
Latino
say-
fans, don't feel fear, feel pride. That's just what came up when I Googled this.
Yeah, but I remember she was talking a lot about how everyone around her was like, don't say anything about ICE. Like, do not say anything about ICE because they will pull your visa and you'll have to leave. So
America is in a really tough time right now. Just not
Yeah.
just Coachella, just generally with that sort of stuff. And more and more celebrities are being urged by their labels and by their representation to shut up.
to not say anything.
Yeah.
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 Which is just,
Yeah.
I got kind of off topic again, but
Yeah.
my point was mainly that like cultural dress is a big part of this festival, and
Yes.
a big part of the kind of style and the festival fashion, and I just think it serves as a pretty like stark contrast to the way that cultural dress is incorporated into other aspects of other festival fashions.
Yes.
So, just to be clear, it was still an issue in the 60s. I'm not saying it was okay. So I have a quote from singer-songwriter Buffy St. Marie, who is from the Cree tribe, I believe. And she did an interview with the New York Times in the 1970s. So this is following Woodstock, right? And the Summer of Love. So the Summer of Love specifically, they really looked towards Native American culture and indigenous culture as a model for their alternative lifestyle, because it seemed more natural and authentic and free. And they also really liked the idea of a connection to the earth and the ecological side of things as well. So to do that, they dressed in fringed leather and adorned themselves with beads and wore headdresses. So St. Marie is commenting in response to that. Because also these people, and this is key, were making companies to create these pieces and then charging hundreds of dollars for them. And I will just add here a quick definition of cultural appropriation, just so we're all on the same page. Susan Kaiser and our bestie Susan Kaiser, I got her in here, and Denise Nicole Green define cultural appropriation as the taking of aesthetic or material elements from another culture by someone who is not a member of that culture without giving credit or profit. So big part of cultural appropriation is profiting off of that culture. So St. Marie, in response to all of this, said, I just don't know why society women keep wearing those $700 forgeries. It is most insensitive in the light of Indian poverty to be publicizing those clothes and giving awards to people who design them. No Indian would wear those things. And look, all of the models are white. Usually they have a few black girls to portray Indians, but they never use real Indians. People weren't happy with this back then either. It wasn't that this was this like utopia and everything was fine. It was still appropriation back then. The issue more so now is that you have corporations profiting off of this. Doesn't make what was happening in the 70s better, but it's on a whole different scale at this point. Yeah. I think it's just when culturally specific items get folded into mainstream fashion, they lose their context along the way. And then as a consequence of that, the cultural significance of that item is ultimately diminished and minimized in regards to like the general public's knowledge. So when you have girls wearing bindis and you have them wearing beaded necklaces and these fringed leather jackets and whatever, people recognize that as boho chic. They don't recognize it as the individual items from individual cultures that have individual specific meanings, and that is where the damage is being done. It's not that this is specific to different garments, but a lot of the times it's not that, you know, people want to keep these items to themselves and they don't want anyone outside their culture to wear it. I mean, I can only speak for like Indian culture in that it's very generous in its ethos. It's like, we love to share our culture, we love to give saris to our friends, and like you know, jewelry and stuff. It's not about gatekeeping, which I think is where like that
that's where the clashing really
the
comes,
misunderstanding comes. Yeah, I'm fine with people wearing mehndi and henna, just like don't spell stupid shit in like, and like, you know, like
be respectful about it.
Be respectful about it.
That's all.
And if you're wearing Indian jewelry, call it by the right names. If you're, we've recently had one of the designer brands released a pair of, there's a reason I'm wearing these earrings though. There's a designer released a pair of, so we call them jhumkas, which you've seen me wearing them. They're like the circle ones, and they have dangly bits. And yeah, a designer brand is selling those for like thousands of pounds and calling them something stupid. It's not the fact that you're wearing it that is necessarily the issue. The issue is how you treat it, what you're calling it. And if you yourself understand what you're wearing, I think is also a massive part of it. And again, that's a blanket statement. There are things you shouldn't wear. Put those headdresses away.
Yeah, I was going to say the headdresses.
Yeah, I was
Put
thinking
the
like
headdresses
ceremonial. Yeah.
If it's ceremonial wear, if it's sacred in any way. I'm not going to get into hairstyles because that's just not my place. But I would just say, listen to people. And if they say they're uncomfortable with you doing a certain hairstyle, hey, maybe don't do that hairstyle.
I think people make it pretty clear what is.
I think so. It's just about listening. And I do think like we've reached a point of globalization where we like sharing of culture is so innate to our society right now. And to suddenly like try and gatekeep and say you can't wear this and you can't wear that, again talking about, you know, there are obviously specific things that you can't wear, don't be a dick about it. But if we're talking about someone like upcycling a sari or like wearing a lehenga or a different type of skirt, that's not inherently a bad thing. I'm not gonna say you can't do that. Again, don't be a dick about it. Understand?
Yeah.
And also do some research.
Do some research.
Yeah.
Buy it from an Indian person.
Yeah.
Which is another key part of all of this.
I think that's a
'cause, like,
massive part. Yeah.
There
a
was
lot of the like jewelry and like this like the maximalist jewelry is like a lot of high street brands jumped on that, and like you get don't do that. It's also just it's bad, it's ugly.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
There was some drama on on Twitter earlier this week. This group of, I think they were British white women, were going on a trip to India, and they while they were there, they all bought saris at this little shop, and they wore them to the Taj Mahal, and they took a bunch of pictures, and they were, you know, having a good time. And people, you know, it's the internet, people were very mad. And the women responded, and they were like, I don't know, we asked the people in the shop, they told us it would actually be better to wear them, like we just wanted, it was a whole thing.
Like I getting mad at that is so like you're missing the point entirely. They're buying saris in India, like probably paying it up for they're probably getting
Get a little bit scammed,
not to like
do your thing.
not to smoke my own people, but they are probably like got a little upcharge on that.
Of course,
which is still, like that's tourist tax.
Exactly, it's tourist tax. That's common in
were
every
thrilled.
single country.
Like,
exactly,
they were happy
like,
to be there.
And
Everyone's happy.
Everyone's happy. You wear it to the Taj Mahal, sure, great. Like,
have a great time.
As long as you're not like lighting it on fire or something. I don't know. I just
the bar's on the ground. As long as you're not lighting it on fire.
As long as you're not buying it and then going back to wherever you're from and reselling it to other white ladies for a bunch more and making a ton of profit off of it. Because all white ladies love to do that. And I do want to do a deep dive into that. I'm actually planning a little something for that. People wearing bindis, not knowing what it is, like they'll just stick something. And it's not that like bindis are specific. So sorry, but I'm taking for granted that people know what that is. What it initially was is like, we call it like kumkum or sindoor. And that is for like married women would wear, initially it's just like sandalwood paste. It's not even a sticker or anything. It's just like, when you do puja, you do like, you get snapped. Anyway, and then when you're married, you wear a red dot, and that's a signifier that you're married. But at this point, it's just kind of like, it is also a decorative thing if you can just wear a pretty shiny thing. You know,
Who doesn't love that?
and who doesn't love that? So again, like, I have no problem with people wearing them. Just know what you're wearing. Just know what you're wearing.
And then I
think
feel
that's
like
all I ask.
the problem too isn't just with the wearer. It's about like how, you know, when we're talking about influencers and celebrities, when they take up these things, and more how the media then portrays it of like, not to put anyone, because I don't know who specifically did anything, but like, they'll just say like Kylie Jenner. Again, I don't know what she's done, but then she's a great example. But then like Vogue or whoever would be like, Kylie Jenner's new style, and it's like,
exactly.
And you know, maybe
selling
Kylie
it
Jenner
is a big thing.
Maybe Kylie Jenner, like, she could totally have known what she was doing and like worn it respectfully and stuff, but then, you know, as a person of public interest, you don't have full control over the narrative applied to you.
Yeah, and I do think you, like, if you're going to do it, you have to take some responsibility of, like, making it clear where you sourced it, making it clear that you know what it is. You know, I think there are steps that you can take in this day and age to be like, hey, I'm very aware of what I am wearing, and I understand that some people might have a reaction to it. This is how I sourced it. This is who I talked to about it to learn more. This is, you know, like...
It's an Instagram story. Like, that's awesome.
I guess my question... I guess my question, too, is, like, worn within the context of Coachella, where you're meant to have this kind of, like, free aesthetic. Does it make, like... My assumption of it would be wearing... because it's not even from any specific country, or it's from multiple, you know, these moments of appropriation are coming from like multiple different countries, multiple different contexts. Wearing it within the context of Coachella, where, you know, you have again this like free aesthetic, essentially is reductive to wear that you know, garment or style or whatever comes from, because it's essentially saying that this clothing is free and is I only have the word free in my head, but
natural.
It's natural, where it's like you're essentially reducing a country and its clothing to this very like primitive idea of wherever it's coming from. So I think maybe Coachella or these music festivals specifically, it's like it's maybe not the correct context to wear it in, or I don't know, because I think that is like tenuous in and of itself. But
I think you absolutely 100% agree in that, like, as of now, the state that we're in, it's maybe not appropriate, but in general, again, this is going to be down to personal opinion. Like, I'm not speaking for all people of color here. Like,
you can't.
Simply cannot. I think that if you're going to make it part of the aesthetic, like if you're going to make Indian jewelry and like a dupatta and a henna and all of this part of the aesthetic, like really do it. In our culture, dressing up for celebration, for music is a huge part of it, you know, and we have festivals, like we are a culture of festivals. They're religious festivals, but they are festivals, they are celebrations, there is music, there is dancing, that is a part of it. So I think there is a way to incorporate the aesthetic. It just has to be done more intentionally, and it has to include more people from the culture. And that's where I stand on it. I can't speak for anyone else. I also think it's now we're going to be in like a time of, we've got to like decode these things, because I've just set up the whole history of how we got here, right? And along those 60 years now, it's give or take, these garments, as I've said, have transformed in context. And so you see a fringed leather waistcoat and you associate it with festival wear now. You associate it with boho chic. You no longer associate it with the indigenous origins. So we've now got to find a way to kind of unpack that, because at the end of the day, boho chic exists. Nothing's gonna undo that. Nothing's gonna, you know, we can't completely change an aesthetic. We've just got to find a way to work with it, you know?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say about like festival wear, how festival wear today is so rooted in, you know, a lot of Indian dress and things like that. But part of me thinks like a lot of that is because festival wear today is so rooted in like 60s and 70s clothing, and that was a time when, yes, people were very interested in Indian culture and fashion and things like that. So it almost makes me think like a lot of people don't fully realize what they're doing, you know? They don't, and that's not an excuse for it, but like they think they're dressing like the 60s, but in the 60s, it's a whole, like you said, there's a lot to go through and unpack and decode.
And I think in a way we have to get back to that original curiosity that this youth culture had in the 60s. We obviously got to improve on that, because it's still a bit funky, but at least they were like going there and like actually engaging, and they at least knew what they were wearing, I guess, is my point. It's like
and in this day and age, you know, plane tickets pretty expensive, but like the beauty of, you can go online and talk to people and learn. There's like the information that we have on our like at our fingertips is insane. Like, utilize that.
And I think like there is something so beautiful in sharing culture, right? Like I don't want people to become afraid of that. I'm really quite scared of actually like becoming so dogmatic with how we police. It's difficult. Like it's this weird tightrope that we have to walk. But I really hope that we can get to a place where there is genuine respect on both sides, that the right people are profiting off of it, you know, that there is genuine exchange of knowledge, because I think that we can get to that place. I don't think that that's like a completely you know, outrageous hope.
I feel like
so. I think it's just intention, like people's intention behind, like you've been saying, you know, over and over again. It's really intention.
I think it can really be summed up with like, this is why we can't have nice things. Like, that was a big thing that's happening, is like people can't be respectful, and so now anytime we see like a white person utilizing a culture that's not their own, like alarm bells go off, that is a very valid response, because of so many horrible things.
Completely valid response. And I will say, like, I have to say that so much of this comes from the fact that this is all based in, like, a lot of people have grown up being made fun of for their culture.
Exactly.
A lot of people have been, like, you know, ridiculed and mocked for wearing things that signify their culture. And if we want to go even further back, this is all in the whole context of colonialism and empire. And that has to be acknowledged. But I do think that
we might have lost some of that idea, though, is what I was saying, of like, in an ideal world, this would be the goal, is that we can like share things, but this is why we can't have nice things. Like, it's just gotten so,
and like it just comes down to what I think the more I think about these days, everything kind of comes down to it, is like, we gotta just find better ways of establishing community. Like, there's just like, there's gotta be a better way. Because all of these decisions of like, because it's hard when you have the internet and when you if you're posting this image and this image gets disseminated across, you know, thousands of people, and you're getting all of these different people's opinions on it, that's not the average experience, you know. Like, a lot of people go to these festivals and they might not post anything. It might just be an experience for them and their friends. And if you have like established with your friends like that maybe your best friend is Indian and you're white, and you want to do something like a shared like cute little outfit together, to be like twinning, and you find a way to do that together in a way where you're both learning and you're both sharing, and it's a fun experience for you both, I think that's wonderful. I think that's wonderful, and I think that's what it should be, and I think that you shouldn't have to worry about explaining it to everyone to a point, as long as you yourself know where you're coming from and your immediate community and the people that you engage with are aware of your intentions, and it's something that you've like done together. You know, there's a way to do it. There's a way to do it there, and I hold on to that belief. When you bring the internet into it and you bring in that kind of visibility, there's so many different dynamics that you're also bringing in that complicate it. And when you bring money into it, you're complicating it. Like, there are so many layers to it, but I do think at its very like base thing, I think that there is a way to do it successfully
100%.
and like productively. I don't know.
100%.
Money ruins everything.
Well, the internet kind of.
Yeah.
The internet and money ruin everything.
What I've
really
been saying
does.
for years is that we are not meant to know what the whole world is thinking all the time, you know. That is, our brains are not built for that. So take responsibility for yourself and the people around you in your own community, and just focus on that. That's nice.
On that note, go support South Asian businesses, go support Indigenous businesses, go support Black-owned businesses.
We could find some to link below, I'm sure.
Truly. We can definitely link stuff below, because I think buying directly from the person is super important. There are tons of beautiful designers all over the world who are making incredible clothing,
especially
and
when you're
accessories, and
especially when you're
go down the road, like especially in the US, like find the local artisan that makes like, you know, indigenous jewelry or whatever, and engage in that
and that's a great way to get something unique too that no one else is wearing. Something handmade.
I know this one was a bit of a winding road, but we got there. No, I had a lot of fun researching.
This was really interesting.
I will have a reading list for this one, and I will put it all in the description. So if you want to get into more, because I did do a lot of reading, but I couldn't manage to work into this. There's so much there to get into. So much.
Well, let us know what you all think. And I was gonna ask, what do you wear to festivals? Have you ever appropriated a culture?
Oh God. Let us know your favorite festival looks from all of the fests that we've talked about.
Ours a G-Dragon.
Exactly. Let's talk about what people are wearing to Coachella this year, because we're seeing a lot of these same trends resurfacing for this current weekend that just went
we
by.
might be doing some posts about certain looks for the Instagram.
Check out our Instagram, check out our TikTok, all Bias Cut Pod. We will be talking about the Sabrina, the Bieber, all of that. There's the Carol G. There's so much to talk about.
The Big Bang.
FKA Twigs.
Big Bang, FKA Twigs, Somber was there, Addison Rae was there.
I in theory know who Somber is, but but I
in reality,
can't
I
visualize him.
He's just a skinny boy in sparkly suits and big hair. That's all I know.
Like, yes, Somber for sure. An icon. Yeah, but let us know your thoughts. Thank you, Sana, for an incredible episode.
Thanks for joining me on this journey.
Really loved this.
It was a fun journey. I loved it.
All right, and we'll see you next week. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye.